Home sweet home. I mean, this is all of our home. We could travel on the face of it. We can travel beneath it. We can even, to a degree, fly above it. But at no time, unless you have special provisions, can you leave it. So this is home sweet home. Would you not agree? And in spite of all of our curiosity about Planet X, I'm going to tell you a fact that where I think we need to forget about Planet X and really pay attention to what's happening right here. We're going to start with pollen. Yeah, I know pollen. But here's the facts, folks. No pollen, no life. No matter how much we all may suffer from allergies, seasonal allergies, etc., etc. If it wasn't for these little guys and gals and its and bits, there would be no life. And we all know about one of the most important friends to our species, the bee. If it wasn't for this little guy, there would be none of us either. So did you know that right now, around the world governments, universities, private corporations are monitoring the pollen levels and count? I did not know this until recently, just how important and how much you can tell about the earth from pollen. They even get samples from Antarctica that contain pollen. It tells the history of our planet, and it also tells us when our planet is healthy and when it's not. We've known over the epochs, millions of years, that pollen can be measured and identified. I mean, that's wild. So, what is palynology? Well, it's quite fascinating. I mean, I didn't know you could get a degree in this, a doctorate. It's amazing. But actually, it's a very important science discipline. If it wasn't for these men and women, quite frankly, folks, we would be at a serious, well, let me just put it this way, much more disadvantage. So they study ancient pollens. All of these are from the period of time that we just saw. Time of the dinosaurs, before the dinosaurs. So what use is this type of science? Well, as you see, it very well documents the correlation of rock sections, proper identification of indicative polymorphs, could lead to the discovery of oil, coal, and gas deposit. It's in everything. So when a pollen falls, you're going to see this. It literally goes just like water. It goes down to the deepest part of the soil, and it builds up. And you can see this, and it can be measured all over the world. And what they're finding now is very alarming. We are now matching the patterns of the time of every major Ellie or near Ellie, and that's an extinction life event. Now you think about this. Something's happening in our atmosphere. Is this because of possibly another star, solar system? I don't know. But here's how it works. So you can see sun gives birth to pollen, carries on the air, gets into the water droplets, hits the minerals, and becomes organic matter. And you can see how each one plays a role, and this affects us. It's how you eat. It's how I eat. And different parts of the region here in the United States, as you can see by this map, represents limiting factors. Obviously, this is desert. This is the fertile belt. My apologies on that. So we can measure it. We can measure it when it's in large amounts, and we can also see when it's not. So we have been able to see this, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about water. The fact that every one of us got to have water. It is indeed the basic form of life. And this is the ideal setting. I have actually fished on a lake like this in Colorado. Not this specific lake, but one very much like it. And it's pristine. It's beautiful. It's what we envision of when you want to say you're thirsty. In fact, hold on one second. I'm going to get a drink of water. And although that was bottled water, nevertheless, I perceived it to be clean, fresh. That's what we want. So here's to all of us. Drink more water, my friends. Have another glass. Make sure that you get at least 8 of those glasses in you each day, because this is what it's doing to us. You doubt me? Let me show you. Welcome to your own pharmaceutical, given to you via your public water system. Yep, I'm talking about drugs on tap, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about a plethora of chemicals that cannot be filtered out. Did you hear me? Cannot be filtered out. And it's alarming. Hell, this is more scarier than any Planet X. Look at this. This is what you are drinking. This is what I'm drinking. This is what all of us are drinking. I don't care where you are on the planet. It's now evidence showing it's everywhere. This has been a problem that many, many countries, nonprofit organizations, UN, etc., have begun to become increasingly alarmed about, and for good reason. If you see the darker colors, that's basically fully contaminated. And obviously, we have little data in these areas, but the satellites now and other data, now that we know what type of compound to look for, showing up, folks. And this is how it's really going to be. Seriously. I mean, the cartoon caption is perfect, isn't it? You're going to need a prescription next time you order a glass of water. So what's in our water? As I told you a minute ago, wastewater treatment plants do not remove pharmaceuticals from the water that they treat and discharge into the waterways. They can't. They don't know how. And so here is the problem. And so let's walk through this together. All right, so you got the manufacturing plant. That's your big pharma company, right? And listen, this can be a lot of other companies putting chemicals and crap. And in this one, we want to talk about the pharmaceuticals. So here you and I live, and then we get during our day, we're relieving ourselves, and then we flush the toilet, and this goes down to the sewage plant. And then this goes, when it's treated, back into the rivers, the streams, and lakes that are river fed. Here's the problem, folks. As you see, it affects the ecosystem almost immediately. The fish get contaminated. The birds eat the fish. The birds then fly off. The birds then begin to have offspring that then begin to have contamination. Our livestock are fed through these, through pharmaceuticals, through antibiotics. And just because now you're seeing the commercials where they're saying they're going to antibiotic-free feed, problem is it's too late. You know, the horse is out of the barn. It's in the soil. It's in the plants. How bad is it? Well, I think this is a pretty good table in showing you just how bad this problem is. Look at this, folks. When you start at, remember, pollen, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, parasites, and it starts working down, gets into the oxygen, that's the soil, the air, and you can follow it, gets down to plant nutrients. Plants absorb those nutrients, folks. They become part of the plant's chemical structure. And guess what? Means you're eating it, I'm eating it. Look at this, folks. This is what's in the water you are drinking, and I don't care if it's bottled. You can't get it out. It's a problem. It's more than a problem. So as you're sitting down there the next time, taking the proverbial moment to empty your bowels, and you're taking prescription, listen, there's a whole lot of other non-prescription that you're taking. It's going right out of your bowels, right back into our mouths. Seriously. When you begin to realize, particularly here in the United States, the amount of population that is on some form of antidepressant, antipsychotic, hormone, folks, there's more estrogen right now in our water than you can imagine. Probably why guys are growing breast. But all of this, folks, all of this, your body doesn't filter it out. Neither does the earth. It's been a known problem. And the problem is, it's not one that no matter what steps are taken today, no matter how we begin to correct the problem is this: it's saturated into the environment. And this becomes a problem. Look at this. Look what's just in the water you're drinking right now. As I told you, seizure medications, birth control, hormones, estrogen replacements, antidepressants, Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, chemotherapies. These kill cells, folks. Yeah. Antibiotics. Oh, I mean, we've so far passed over the precipice on that one. Painkillers, tranquilizers, anti-cholesterol drugs, anti-inflammatory, beta blockers, steroids, stimulants, Valium. The list goes on. And then it gets worse. We never think about the shampoo, the lotion, the caffeine, the nicotine, the fragrances, the cosmetics, the sunscreens. How about even the time you go in for an MRI, that X-ray contrast? All going back into our mouths. And this gets bad, as I told you. It's one of these that once you start the top down, in order to get down, because down is where the real problem becomes, it's almost impossible. Yeah, it's a fact. This is what's happening. All over the world. It's poison, folks. What have we done? Our children are now being forever changed because of this. We're putting this in them. It's becoming part of their DNA. It's irreversible as far as I can see at this point. It has gotten so far and so deep into our environment. Again, I don't know what measures that we could take because it's in everything. That's the problem. It's in everything. And when you think of pollution, this is what we typically think of. But folks, this is filled with pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And so not only do we have the pollution on the top, we've got chemicals, not the type of chemicals that we think about, We've got pharmaceuticals in there. And they don't even know how far it's going into the oceans. So if you think your city is immune, think again. It is everywhere, folks. Yeah, I know we got things going on in the heavens. I'm very much hip to that. I see this, though, as a more immediate problem. And I just thought that you ought to be aware of. And here's the other thing. There are no laws that protect us from this. And I'll tell you how bad it gets. It's estimated each year here in the United States that, and I'm trying to get the exact number for you, 46 million Americans are drinking water contaminated with trace amounts of those pharmaceuticals, which continue to increase. When you think that the pharmaceuticals here alone are dumping in excess of 270 million pounds of pharmaceutical compounds into the waterways, the residue, it becomes a problem. India, China, every major industrialized country is now doing the same thing. In one river in India, 90 different pharmaceutical companies were dumping their waste, positively tested for over 21 active drug ingredients. In one river alone, there was enough ciprofloxacin, strong antibiotic, being dumped every day by drug companies to treat 90,000 people. And this was water that was supposedly purified. Folks, what I'm trying to say to you, it's changing us. And you need to be aware. The series I keep on trying to direct you to bring out is that it always seems to come back to the DNA. And in this case, we're seeing it already impact us. Hopefully, maybe we can become much more aware of this, all of us. Maybe write your congressman, call your senator. Let's see what we can do to possibly save future generations. All right, be kind.